Hello, everyone. Today we have Leslie here with us, and she has a wealth of information that I think you're going to find really valuable. So, Leslie, why don't you talk about the course that you teach? It's so interesting to me. I'm really excited to learn more about it.
Sure, I'm Leslie Paparsenos. I'm a physical therapist. I'm actually also a physiotherapist, and I'm an NDT PT instructor. I lived in Australia for 5 years, so I got my physiotherapy degree. So I've kept that licensure as well. But
What is
over
an NE? What is the last?
NDT is neurodevelopmental treatment instructor. So I'm a pediatric physical therapy instructor for the Neurodevelopmental Treatment Association as well.
Okay.
Um, so I have over 30 years of experience working in the pediatric rehabilitation. I've worked in hospitals, schools, outpatient clinics, home-based settings, aquatics, pretty much you name it, and I've done it. What I've been noticing more and more recently is that therapists are often expected to address increasingly complex students and their needs when they're working with limited time, bigger caseloads, and expanding educational demands, really. So at the same time, we're expected to know more about movement, posture, communication, cognition, and participation, how it's all interconnected. So what I'm finding now that I'm in a school 3 days a week now, I'm finding that the therapy itself becomes very fragmented. So PT will focus more on just mobility, OTs might do just more fine motor skills, and the speech language pathologists will work on communication, and the educators are focusing on academics, and then you have your reading specialists and your music. It's just all very fragmented. But our kids don't really experience their school day separately. It's really one integrated day, and it should really be that. So I wanted to create this webinar to help bridge that gap, to help the therapists really shift their ideas, shift their mindset. Instead of saying, what impairment am I working on today? Just to have that mindset of what does the child need to participate more fully in school? When we begin with that thought process of participation, our interventions naturally become more collaborative, more educationally relevant, and ultimately more meaningful for the students that we're working with. So this webinar is really about recognizing the role of posture and how it supports attention, mobility supports and how they can help with exploration, positioning supports, which is how that helps with communication, and how movement itself actually helps to support learning. So when we can understand that all of these relationships are coexisting together, we end up then working with our children and thinking in a more holistic way. So it's not just isolated skills that we're working on, but we're working on getting these kids to access their education, to participate in their education, and to really be part of their school community.
That's interesting to use participation as the guiding path, right? How are they able to participate? Because you work with some really involved students.
I
And I
do.
hear this a lot with teachers in the classroom is how do I help these really involved students who are in my classroom when I have all these other students as well? So do you have any hints or tips for your therapists to help
Yeah,
them
yep.
help the teacher?
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about this quite a bit in within the context of this webinar to try to help everyone embed some of these strategies. I'm a full believer in pushing in, but being part of the background so that you're not interfering with the learning. You're not interfering with the social component part of it. How do you effectively do a push in for your session? How do you provide the right adaptations for head control or for mobility support or standing? And can you incorporate when someone is standing during the day so that they can access that group lesson in a little bit better way so they can be at the correct height for that social component of it and really allowing for that access to really be the focus of what I'm doing in my session. So maybe I am working on standing, maybe I am working on some mobility, but it's within the context of how they can access their education, how they can participate in the classroom, and really be a team with the educators, with the specialists and the other disciplines to really make it so that this child can be fully invested in their learning and not sort of tune out. Because what I see is that a lot of my kids, and I see a lot of the older teenagers these days who no one else knows what to do anymore. They've run out of ideas, and so they say, Leslie, here, you go and treat this kiddo. And I'm happy to because I find them to be very fascinating because we've tried all these other things. It doesn't mean that you can't try it over again, but sometimes putting those strategies within the classroom, within a type of equipment or a head support system so that they can be social with their classmates, it is transformative for their education. It's transformative for their social role within the classroom, and I see them becoming more of themselves and to be able to access and make friends and to have communication. And it's a wonderful thing to see. So I just really wanted to share those ideas. And the webinar gives you the tools of how you can embed this within your sessions, how you can try to take this concept and make it work for all of your students, not just the ones who are have mobility issues or who have a lot of medical complex needs, but even our kids, our autistic kids or our neurodivergent kids, or even those kids who have a more mild involvement. And it's really their posture and their endurance that diminishes their ability to access their education throughout the whole school day. So it's really about understanding each kid on your caseload, and these strategies can really help all of our kids.
As a reading specialist, I actually found a study that looked at postural stability and how well students do with reading and reading comprehension, and I linked them together. And when I have students come into my class, the first thing I do, I know it sounds crazy, but we have mats and we get on the floor and we do our posture work, and I see who has postural stability issues. And the teachers are starting to realize that when a student's struggling with literacy, it's not the first thing isn't we need more phonics. No, we need to be able to have some postural stability and some endurance. And we talk about endurance for reading and being able to focus and stay on task. So I loved learning that you were connecting those dots for teachers. And are you finding they're receptive?
Yes, it takes a bit for change, as all of us changes is just change. It's not something that we're really aware of or something that we need to increase our knowledge of. But what I find is when I come with concrete things to change, and I don't change everything all at once, we change small pieces so it's manageable for the school. I ask the teachers and the aides, what is possible? Is it possible that we can stand during group lesson, or is that going to be really disruptive? I may say that I really feel that this child might need to do some of their reading in 4 point rather than sitting in their chair just to help their postural system get a little bit more active. And I find that the teachers will come to me now more for the kids not even on my case, so that says, hey, can you come in and do an assessment because this child is having a difficult time with literacy? Can you just give us some ideas of how we can incorporate this within all of the kids in the classroom? One of my cutest little kids lately is 9 years old, and she was refusing to read at school. And her mom found me, and I'm seeing her after school, and I'm working with her reading specialist. So we do quite a lot of reading and drilling during PT sessions, but we're doing it with movement. We do it with jumping. We do it with roller skating. We do it with all these other pieces that are helping to incorporate her posture, her movement, and all of these things. And then lo and behold, she jumped 2 grade levels this year, and I've only seen her for 4 months. And so I got the reading specialist on board, the school system is on board, and they want me to come in and do a talk for their teachers just to help them kind of understand even more of their kids, not just the ones that I am treating, but to have this reach um, an exponential number of kids. That's actually why I like to teach, is because I really want these strategies to be useful for so many more kids.
Yeah, Dr. Jessica Gilson Shore, who teaches my courses for Theramoves, she's on the reading team. She's a physical therapist and she's on the reading team at her school and she just loves it. This is what I've been doing for 25 years with School Moves. As a reading specialist, the very first encounter I had with an occupational therapist who came to the school, I contacted her to help me with my daughter at home, but then she came to school and I was telling her about the lack of focus and the lack of progress, and I don't know really what to do anymore. I've done all my clinical masters in reading strategies, right? We've done all the phonics and everything. And she said, well, it's all about got to get them on the floor. I am like, what? It was like, it was just so foreign to me. And lo and behold, I changed my whole reading lab. It was Marston ball hanging from the ceiling on a balance board, hitting these balls and spelling their words. I had all the jump patterns and they would spell while they jumped. That's what all School Moves was about, is just integrating that movement into the classroom. And the kids all wanted to come to my room. They'd walk down the hallway and they'd look in, and it was so fun. They're like, how do I get to come to your room? Like, well, just fail at reading and you get to come to my room. So when I was learning about your course, I thought this is just fabulous. I've kind of been trying to beat the drum, and there's people that will get on board and there's other people that are strict, like, nope, it's just hit them with more phonics. I'm thinking, no, it's some of these kids just don't have the energy to sit up, track across a page, cross midline, body awareness, all of those foundation skills that we miss. And I keep hearing about students aren't making progress in literacy. And I keep thinking, well, because we're not looking at that foundation. And you still need good literacy programs and all of that, but really need what you're talking about. And I'm really happy to hear that schools are being open to it.
Yeah, I have quite a few in the New York area that are being quite open, which is very, very nice. So,
Yeah.
and I think they see the change, and they're not using it for everybody yet, but they are using it for the kids that they're not seeing, that are plateauing or they're not seeing progress with. So it's really wonderful to see that change can still happen. So that's what we like.
So if you had one thing you wanted to share with our listeners that you think could make everything else easier, I'm all about, we go in so many directions and we have so many things to do. What would be your advice for your colleagues, your other PTs, OT speech, and also for the teachers?
I think we really have to focus on participation, not to focus on impairments. When we can shift our thinking, instead of saying what can't this child do, if we say instead, what does this child need to do to participate with their friends, to participate in the classroom, to be accessing their education, our clinical reasoning changes completely. So instead of, for example, treating posture because posture is impaired, we improve posture so a student can attend during circle time so that they can answer questions on their augmentative communication device. We don't work on walking just to be able to walk a distance. We might work on walking so that they can go on a field trip, or they can go to the store that's on the block to be able to purchase something for their classroom, so that they can have the ability to go and walk across or walk out of a classroom if they're not enjoying the topic. Letting kids be, a little bit naughty when they're learning how to use their power chair, they're learning how to walk, to be able to get out of where they are is a wonderful thing, that can be a really good perspective shift. So thinking about that participation will really actually simplify so many decisions. It simplifies the evaluation piece, the intervention piece, planning, collaboration, documentation, IEP, the whole 9 yards. Because when you're working on participation, you have to collaborate. And so if you're all working towards the same general idea for this child to be able to participate in their school day, and finding out what this child really wants to participate in, they might not like PT. Not a lot of people like PT. It's a lot of work, but they might love music class. So bring it into music class so that you can really help them to be able to participate and access that music class, and yet still do the things that they also need to do for their body at all. I mean, really, if we think about it, at the end of the day, our kids don't participate in impairments. They participate in life, and so they participate in school. When that becomes our starting point, everything else becomes way more purposeful. So it's an easier place to start from.
And just explain the pyramid for those listeners who aren't sure what you're talking about with the pyramid.
Well, it's just the idea that participation will guide everything else that we're doing. If we have participation as our focus, we have to collaborate. So any part of our interaction with this student is going to be guided by what participation realm we're working in. Once we can understand that component, everything else will fall into place. So we have to collaborate with our OTs. We have to collaborate with speech. We have to collaborate with other people, because we're not the only person involved in that skill or that task for them to be able to participate. So if it's so that the child can sit and do their reading, We need to be able to work on the posture, the alignment, the endurance, the head control. They need the sensory piece of it. They need to scan across midline. They have to be able to block out all of the extra multimodal sensory information that's around them. We have to work together with PTOT, speech, reading, and education to give that child the best opportunity to participate so that they don't have to just do a skill, but they can enjoy reading with their classmates. They can figure out a way to get them to access that so that they can be part of the classroom because that's what all of our kids really want to do is they want to be social. They really do want to please everybody. They want to feel satisfied that they're part of a group, and that's really important.
So the pyramid are kind of segmented skills that you work up. And one of the things I always had about the pyramid that bugged me a bit was that the very top is this little tiny word cognition. And I'm like, it's built into the whole thing. Cognition is all around that neurophysiological developmental pyramid.
Yep.
Yeah. So
And that cognitive load can cause a massive amount of fatigue. So we have to really encourage flexibility of thought. We have to encourage flexibility of movement so that we can help support that whole cognitive piece. It's not a tiny little dot. I don't like
sliver
that.
at the top.
It's it's a big circle around.
It
It encompasses
is.
everything. So it's very
Yeah.
important. But we have participation as the focus. All of that really comes into play more clearly than anything I've ever done in my 30 years. So it's a huge piece and shift.
Oh,
That's important.
it's fascinating for you to just say that one word and have that guide. Wow, that makes you're right. It just makes everything simplified.
Hmm.
Asking that question, that's just genius to me. So if people want to take your webinar, is it rotated through? Like I know it's this coming November, but for people who aren't watching it this year, watch it next year, are you doing like every year for Theramoves?
I don't know yet. Well, I will
Not yet.
probably actually, what I'm planning on doing is letting them record it because I feel like this is something that is really important to have. I like the discussion piece of it. So being live is always, I think, a benefit because you can ask your questions and whatnot. But I'm going to have them record it so that it can be available for people in any time zone
Oh, on
at
demand.
any
That's
point in it. Because on demand is one of the ways that we can learn. And then if you do take it on demand, please email me questions because I'm really happy to be part of people's learning process. And if something's not understood and you've done it on demand, it's sometimes hard to feel like you can reach out and get those questions answers. But I do mean it when I say I'm part of their journey. So happy to be an answer of questions or be able to help find them the right person to answer questions as well. Because I don't know all the answers. I'm just giving them something to think about. So
So I'll
um,
put all that in the show notes below for people who want to reach out to you also. So
perfect.
it's been wow, in this short amount of time, so many great insights. So thank you for spending the time with me. I
Well,
appreciate it.
thank you so much, Deborah. This has been really fun.